some reason yesterday's recording didn't come out. I don't know why. So what you have in front of you here is, I know it's 10 pages, I'm sorry. But, first of all, we're not going to learn all of it. But as I was going through it, this is the Ramban's letter of 1232 to the Chachmei Tzarfas. And it's a masterpiece. Who am I to say that? It's a masterpiece in many respects. And the reason I want to go through a lot of it, I've put in bold, as you'll see. I'll add the source sheet to the source sheet online. Is because it is a masterclass in how to approach controversy. The Ramban is still a relatively young man. He's not yet quite 40. Mm-hmm. He is being machnis roshei ben haharim. He is being actively involved in a massive controversy. One where you saw yesterday some of the language, which we won't repeat in a way. It's good that it wasn't recorded. They're calling people Rabbeinu Yonah, questioning Rabbeinu Yonah's lineage, questioning his yichus, whether he's Jewish. What you see from here is clearly that the tone and the tenor of the whole conflagration was very, very aggressive, very nasty, very personal in a sense. Although it was between great chachamim, we have to be careful what we say, but there is no question that a lot of the language and the invective that was used was incredibly strong. And the Ramban here has credibility. He is a bridge in a number of senses between the supporters of the Ramban, certainly in northern Spain and in parts of France, and those who would appear to be the school of the Tosafists. He has credibility there as well in the school in Paris, Rabbi Chilmi Paris, the Moshe Mikutzi, the Erzarua, his contemporaries, and he has credibility and currency with them. And he does an incredible thing. We'll focus a little bit on some of the technicalities. In a way, I'm less interested in the technicalities than in the way debate is handled. Why? Here, the reward, so to speak, Emma says learning this Ramban is a reward in itself. But I have decided, I wasn't going to, but I've decided to let you into some of the spicy controversy that is still taking place today. You heard from Professor Mark Shapiro a week or two ago. He wrote a book on the Yud Gimel Ikrim, and I'm going to use this. And then when we will look at Reb Zev Leff's review of his book, we will look at Rabban Lopiansky's review, not so much of his book, but of on this idea about corporeality, whether Hashem has. So we're going to look at a very alive debate, if that's the right word, and we will uncover plus cachange. What will we see? We will see that the same themes emerge again. And as we go through it, I want you to. I will make reference because I don't know if you'll get it yourself. I don't mean to be rude, but we'll see and uncover a few things. And I want to be able to create a link in the next shiur or two between the Ramban and his reading of this controversy, big, brutal, arrogant, assertive controversy, and the controversy that is still happening to this very day. And we will see that there are themes and trends and ideas that underpin them. And hopefully these are things that we can then use in our lives, personal, communal, etc. Okay? Mm-hmm. Okay, therefore, let us see. Now, I'm going to read quite fast, so follow with me. I'm going to read and translate quite fast. Okay. The first thing I want you to appreciate is that the vast majority of this letter is written in poetry. It's not even prose, it's poetry. There's a lot of rhyming themes. It is replete with references, flowery, lyrical references to psukim and midrash chazal, and it trip off his tongue, and his mastery, clearly, of Torah shebichsav, Torah shebal peh was incredible. And if you appreciate Lashon HaKodesh, it's incredible. Let's start. Terem e'eneh ani shoigeg. There's a posuk straight away. Terem e'eneh ani shoigeg. Before I even answer, I am shoigeg. I am making not a mistake, but I'm faltering. Oid adaber v'libi mipnei hayira mismoigeg. You see there, shoigeg mismoigeg. You see the and if you just read it, even if you don't translate, let me read a few lines, even without translating it, and just to give you a flavour. Terem e'eneh ani shoigeg. Oid adaber v'libi mipnei hayira mismoigeg. Yinotku Moshe hamachshava v'areshes hasfosayim v'hakumus v'hamagila yonu bein hayodayim kasher yonud hakone b'mayim b'shimi aroyes sheyagim im oinosehem lovi v'layish mehem Ra'am sorim u'turua chivtim b'makal u'makim b'ritzua lichboish kol b'y oilam tachlas ragli kvoidam tul makah v'hachal kod kodam U'ba'oifa from charbam al ponenu chordu rayonenu v'nivhalu eshtoinesenu ve'ich yuchal ledaber nechoiches u'mayoshiv al teichoches eved nivze be'enov v'nimos v'liboy b'kirboy hames yimos. Do you hear that it's I mean, if you appreciate the Lashon, I don't know what you got of that, but it's absolutely beautiful. He is being polite, respectful. He is
that's a Ramban, right?
the Ramban. He is being he's exhibiting anova. More than anything else, he is being more than polite and respectful. He's being humble. He is giving them by as you'll see, it's a lengthy letter. He is taking them seriously. And he's going to be doing two things. The first thing he's doing, and notice it's important, it's the first thing. The first thing he does is he treats them, he shows them that he respects them and their position. That's the first thing he does. Okay? So he says, I hear the lions roaring and they have the world under their feet. And we were chordurayanenu. How? And the first thing that we thought, we trembled. How am I going to be able to speak directly to you and criticize? And my heart is trembling and melting inside me. Okay, so So he says, you are Roshei Ha'amudim, Nesiei Ha'matos, Oimdim al Apkudim. You are the rabbinical leaders of the Dor. And then the bit that I put in bold, the first bit. Va'afki anoichi a'aneim, ayasreim b'shomom, v'derech tevunois oidiem. And even though I will respond to them, you see, notice, he's even talking about them in the third person. Look at this. He doesn't say, I will answer you. I will, name, ayasreim b'shomom. He's giving them, even as he's telling them that he's going, ayasreim b'shomom, v'derech tevunois oidiem, that I am going to be teaching you, and I'm going to be setting you right, and I'm going to be ayasreim. Again, that's the word of to chastise, yisurim. Mm-hmm. But he does it he's using the third person. He's being respectful at the same time. And then immediately after he's used the first tough expression, because until then that paragraph was honorifics. He's talking about how great they are, and there is this conflagration, but they are the Rosh Ha'am. He then writes one line of saying, and even though I am going to be a bit tough on you guys a bit later, he immediately says, Va'ani, next line, Va'ani kinemola, I'm like an ant. Ve'in b'leshoni milo, I have no words in my mouth. B'zui am v'toilas, I'm a worm. Look at this. You see what he's done? The approach. First of all, there is general, the correct word in English is obsequience. He has been very soft and praising them. And then one line of, even though I am going to, but I'm an ant, I'm nobody, I'm nothing. It's quite incredible. Lo lamaditi chochma vadas. This is the Ramban. He's already written some of his incredible works. Very likely he wrote the Milchamas Hashem on the Rif already. He wrote that as a younger man. He's probably written a lot of his Chidushei Ramban already. How on earth am I going to gird my loins and speak against the Giborim? I'm not even your Chaverim, I'm lower than that. Look at this. I'm not even your colleagues. But to open eyes, to turn to Musa, ears, and my heart and my kidneys are trembling. Ruach mipihem Torah, mipi sifreya Musa, mipi kosva moira. V'hinei, next paragraph. Try and follow with me, please. Hakoton b'shivtei hadal ba'alofai. I am the smallest amongst the shvatim of Klal Yisrael, but nevertheless I will not withhold my pen. Lo imona itai, lo echsoich pi. Again, it's all rhyming. Yeah? Lo vish eima reses v'zia. I am filled with trembling, and I'm kireya al birkayim. I'm bowing on my knees. Kido al apayim. I'm bowing with prostrated arms. Hishtachavoyo zupishut yodayim v'raglayim. Odun lifneim bekarka. I will be judging in front of you while I am on the ground. Eshel kahalocha, eshel keinyan. V'gam yodati. I know gedulasam. Remember, he's still speaking to them in the third person, and I know their greatness in chokhmah and in minyan. V'hadin asher donuhu yodati. Ki b'shef tzedek shoftu. The din that they do, that you do, is always correct. U'ma hatalmid asher yavai achareihem, and asher kvar osuhu. Again, a pasuk. And the Talmud, that's myself, I'm now coming to talk about something that's already done. I mean, it is so beautiful. You get a letter like this, but it starts off like this, you hang it up, you frame it. Now, next paragraph.
Depends what comes after. But
yeah. It's like, what's the old joke? When somebody says, with the greatest of respect, that's just a way of saying, I'm now about to insult you. Not always, but sometimes, yeah. V'hasirois. Now, I will, what I'm going to try and do? Maybe I'll do this to make it a bit quicker, okay? I'm going to try, but follow with me, please. I'm going to just give you the translation immediately, okay? I'll do a live translation as best as I can. It's not easy. And I have removed the mask of shame from my face. Mm-hmm. And I will put the words of the Rabbonim of Tzarfas in front of my eyes, both with the written and the oral Torah, in which every student needs to learn, to respond to questions, to ask, to include situations, to ask for signs, and to question their, i.e. your, decrees, and to respond to your words, to their words. I ask, what, how, and why. You saw that? Esh'al, ma, ve'ech v'lama. You're with me, yes?
Yeah.
And my spirit. And then immediately, so this is the first time again, he started saying, I am about to ask, what, how, and why. And then immediately, look what he does. And my spirit is generous. It emerges from a place of love. Not from a strange wind and complaining thoughts, but like somebody who turns my ears to listen, and that which is the desire in my heart for love and fire. I can't even translate that word, but with shining face, for I am full of words, painful new words. My tongue is sticking to my palate, and I find it hard to even bring out my words, and I don't know. Please tell me, teach me my masters, and I will be quiet. From the chastisement of your lips, I will not deviate, for you shall teach me your din. Now, here's the first time, notice, this is the first time, just as yes, very good. He now switches to second person. He now switches to second person. Over the page, and tell me the mishpat emes which you have done. And if you are correct, like the sun at midday, and the sweetness of the light, which is good for the eyes, and my heart and eyes have somehow not managed to understand, they are too small from appreciating the depth of your great wisdom, which is so broad and sublime. Please, my teachers, view me as an animal, like an ox. Don't treat me just like no, sorry, the other way around. Please don't treat me like an animal and just like a shoyer who eats grass and you don't even look at me. So please tell me, if you're going to disagree with me and respond, tell me how and why. Kisvuli me'ezatam dantuni. What reason are you going to judge me? You just need to inform me. And since I did not get your direct oral response, I wait to hear the truth of your words from your letters. Because, and then he says something interesting. He says where he's excusing himself for not appearing in front of them. He says because where he is, it's very dangerous. It's meshubeshes begaisos. There are robbers, highway robbers, and it is a physically a dangerous journey to undertake. He's unable to do that. I am unable to appear before you in person. In other words, he's saying, I would have come to you. Of course I would come to you. But it's actually I'm physically unable because of the danger of the way. It's meshubash begay. Fantastic insight. Our French masters, we are your students, and your waters we drink. Your words have reached me, and we will discuss them. But I'm not arguing on them. But like the Gemara says in the Yerushalmi, Reish Lakish is not talking arrogantly against Rabbi Yochanan in order to argue, but in order, L'oifuka uvada minayhu, says the Yerushalmi, so that we are able to clarify and do and extract the right thing to do. And on this way, Valderech Hazeh, on this thing, I ask you, as in after the truth and the words and the truth, when I see, now here he makes, this paragraph, he's going to make reference to the specifics. When I see, let me read this, the bold bit, just so that you'll appreciate also the poetry, see what you get from it. B'ra'isi atzaschem ha'tahoyron niskemes, adaschem ha'kdoisha chisemes, kol eretz tzarfas, Rabbonim v'sorim, pinois shvotim, kulam hiskimu lenadois ulahacharim, kol ish asher yodo yorim, lahagois b'sefer moira nevuchem u'sefer mada, karno yigadea, ad asher yignezu gniza oilomis, ze toifes divrechem ma'at meharbe, v'nitzutz mehamaduro hagdoila asher lo tichobe. Beautiful, first of all, the language. He says, what I've heard is that you have all decided and signed that you're going to be excommunicate anybody who learns the Sefer Moira Nevuchim or the Sefer Hamada, and it should be buried. It should be buried Geniza Oilamis. This is what he's heard. And now the fun starts. Next paragraph. To be forever, to be buried.
Okay.
To be buried. Geniza, to be buried. Yeah. To be hidden. And then he turns to them and he says, and why, O holy ones, did you spread the net of excommunication over many kehilos? Now, the first thing he does, V'loma kadosh elyon perastem l'rav hakehilos reshes acherem. What you've done is, the first thing he says is, the scope of your ban. It wasn't limited. You have arrogated to yourselves the authority to implement this is what the Ramban understood, a worldwide ban on the Sifrei HaMoira and the Sifrei HaMada. Why did you spread your net of excommunication l'rav hakehilos, liktoif oilos ve'eshko lahashchis es hakoil, to destroy everything? Ki titnu ha'oretz hazois lavuz Lumshisas ulchusham v'lishol ba'ala nafsham. What you've done is, you've now included Eretz Hazois, where the Ramban is, in Spain. You've included that. And you've destroyed, you've put, so to speak, you've spread your net and your authority over that. That's point number one. Point number two. V'lo nesatem kovod laharav hagodo. You did not give kovod to the Rambam. Asher bona b'talmud migdol. Migdol oiz l'shem Hashem. The Rambam built a tower of strength for the name of Hashem. Umikdosh lahamoinai. Hamoin am ho'arotzois ha'olim beprotzois. He built up a tower of strength for Torah amongst the majority which are unlearned. Ubeis talmudeinu hashomeim shimamois oilam yekoimeim. And the Beis HaTalmud, the Beis HaMedrash, which is bereft, which is alone and desolate, he built it up. B'chol golus hochel hazeh b'sfarad u'beretz hamarav v'la mizrach v'la tzvi hoyomeshia v'rav. And not only Spain and in the west did he help, but also to the east and Hatzvi. That's a reference to Eretz Yisrael. He was Moshiach v'Rav. Kamon nidchei emunah yekabetz. How many that were thrown away and had no connection to emunah, he gathered them in. Kamo bote medroshos ribates. How many bote medrash did he establish? For so many that were hungry for hope and yearning, he threw his bread. Lachmen osameimov nemonim. V'kama apikorsim umegale keneged talmudenu ponim hoshiv b'dvarav nevoinim. How many people who were apikorsim, he responded to them and gave them a das Torah. Ve'im atem b'cheik emuna emunim. And if you, from your academic, your ivory tower, and this is, you hear the stinging criticism, you, the Tosafists, who have the luxury of sitting in Paris with the Rabbi Chilmi Paris and the Urzarua and the Sarmikutzia and Talmidim, and you have the privilege and luxury of being in your academic tower, so to speak, to be in a Beis HaMedrash with Torah and Yiras Shamayim. Ibatem b'chek emuna emunim shesulim b'chatzos hakabala d'shenim v'ra'ananim. You are fresh and you have but surely you should give heart to those who live at the extremes, at the fringes, at the margins, the marginalized, the disenfranchised. The Rambam gave them back hope. What about those people that are full of taiva? He satisfied their thirst for emunah. Instead of, and here he does something interesting, and here we see something really interesting. Here he's now going to reference, and we've done this before, the Ramban's view on the Chochma Yavonis. Yeah. Instead of them, what else would they have done? They would have filled their bellies with the garbage of the Greeks. Hevlei hayavonim. That's what they would have done if the Rambam wouldn't have come. Hevlei hayavonim. Ve'hechilam bitnom havois. Ve'oleinu b'piem hayachoter ga'ava. And then what would have been, this is the Ramban l'shitosai, remember, where his criticism of Aristotle is primarily his arrogance. Remember that? Va'alinu b'piem hayachoter ga'ava yilagu b'sofal in nefoshes haboitches v'anushomos hamakavos yoniu l'reish Torah ki en tam la'avera ve'en ruach lemitzvah. Because that's what would have happened if the Rambam wouldn't have been around. All these people who don't have the luxury of sitting in the Beis HaMedrash in Paris, who are out there, and the alternative for them, if they want chokhmah of some sort, it's going to be the garbage of the Yavonim. The Nevuchim, exactly. Ve'ein ruach lemitzvah. B'divrei Toraseinu lo ya'amiku. U'biyaldei nochrim yaspiku. They go to the gymnasiums. They don't have a... V'lulei midivrei haravu mipiv svara choyu. If they did not have access to the Rambams and they would live from his svarim, v'nafshon mideshen chochmosa yirviyu u'ba'ahala, beautiful. Then kimat ragleim notoyu. Next line, their legs would have faltered. There would be nothing left. And here he says the following stinging criticism: Halochem. Do you see this penultimate line in the middle?
Yeah.
Halochem. It took me a while to work that. Halochem goine haTalmud hitriach atzmai. Do you really think the Rambam wrote his Sfarim for you? You, the goine haTalmud, do you think he wrote them for you? V'hu kamuchrach v'onus. The Rambam had no choice. Livnoi sefer mipi philosophe yovon shomolonus. He had to build it could be this is sapara border, to run away from the philosophy of Greece. This is fascinating. He's saying that the Rambam, what he was doing was, he saw the need, like the Gedolim do, the Chafetz Chaim and others, and they see the need of what the Dor needs. And the Dor is like today. We have, I'll tell you a quick story. Just maybe lighten the mood a minute. This I heard from my father, who heard from Rabbi Miller, who heard from Reb Dessler. That's how. Rabbi Miller was one of Reb Dessler's 3 primary Talmidim. Rabbi Miller was the principal of Gateshead Seminary. Yeah. So Reb Dessler had an idea. Reb Dessler wanted to have a rabbiner seminar, to have a rabbinical college, not a kollel, but a rabbinical college to train Rabbonim for the next day. Reb Dessler saw that there would be a need for the next generation in Anglo Jewry to have Rabbonim, but it wasn't going to be a classic kollel. Reb Dessler wasn't sure what to do. He went and he asked the Chazon Ish. And the Chazon Ish said, absolutely, but chas v'sholom, not in Gateshead. There is a need for it, but not in Gateshead. What does that mean? That story tells you so much. It tells you that, and it needs Gedolim then who are on the spot, who know, who understand what the Dor needs, what the place needs. And what is right in one place would be absolutely wrong in another. It's not one size fits all. That's not the way Yiddishkeit works. And lahavdil, not so much lahavdil, a story in back to Gateshead, which is, I suppose, mein Heimat, Rav Zimmerman Shlita, when he was Rav in Gateshead, he told me this himself once in conversation, that under him Gateshead changed in a number of respects, and that's interesting discussion. The reality became that although it was and is and hopefully will always remain an Ir HaTorah.
I'm going there next week.
Oh yeah, cool, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, let me know before you go. My parents live there or whatever. So, but for example, when I was growing up in my class in Gateshead, I don't think there was. No, there was one person whose father wasn't in full-time learning or, a sheikhet or a sofer or whatever. There was one person. But generally speaking, the idea that just a working man, a frum working man, it didn't really, there were a couple. So Mr. Steinhaus, who had the shop, Mr. Steinhaus, but these were balabatim, Toradika balabatim. They would sit and learn 3-4 hours in the morning. Every spare moment was learning. But it came to a point. Gates had changed, like I was saying. Gates had changed, and there was going to be somebody else suggested there should be an Uncle Moshe. Uncle Moshe. You know what that is? That okay, it's a frum kids entertainer. Uncle Moshe's coming to town with a big mem on his hat and whatever, right? It's the frum, and he sings about brochas and all this sort of stuff, right? But there had never been a concert. A concert in Gateshead was like, well, no way. So they came and asked the then Rav, Rav Zimmerman Shlita, whether they could have an Uncle Moshe concert in Gateshead, and he said yes. And then he gets a delegation of the Koilel Jungeleit. They were protested that Gateshead's being dragged down, and we're having things now that were never. And Rav Zimmerman responded to them with the Dvar Chochma, which is exactly the same theme. He said, for you and your children? Of course not. It's not for you. It's not about you. You don't. Of course you're not. You wouldn't send your children to an Uncle Moshe concert. But I have a bigger town now. And there are people for whom it is right. It is okay. It is a chizuk for them. So, and now, how do you maintain a core? It's the same same as in a family, by the way, when, with multiple children, and how does each one have their space and have their own individuality, whilst still maintaining the exoskeleton and the basis of the values which are not up for grabs, and it's not just do whatever you want. That's always a question in chinuch, and fine. But there are things, and this is true in Rabbonos. So I'm paskening some things for some of the younger Rabbonim here who are going, Shabbos to various places, like Teirim, that I would never use here. But you have to look at the reality, and you have to know what is right and what is wrong in different places. Okay, that's Horah, it's not halacha. You can't find that in a book. You need to learn it by experience. You have to have Masorah, you have to have Kabbalahs, etc. So this is what the Ramban is saying to them. So because you, Balei HaTosfos, sitting, having the luxury and the privilege and the zchus of sitting in your base medrash in Paris, and you see things, and we haven't yet got to the technical details of what they saw which they didn't like, we'll come to some of that, but because you thought that this was talking to you, this sefer is not for you, at least the Moira, it's not for you. Halochem! Halochem, go'inei ha-Talmud, hitriach atzmi. Do you really think the Rambam bothered for himself to write the sefer for you? He had no choice to build a sefer from the Greek philosophers, lirchoik me'al Aristo v'Gallianus, to, now this is interesting. It's really interesting. The Rambam, this is I just want to take a minute out because it's too important to miss. The Rambam had respect for, unlike the Ramban, you can saw, he says, the Hevel, we saw before, the Hevlei HaYavonim, right? The Rambam has the greatest of respect for Aristotle in some areas. Tachas HaGalgal, he says he's correct. And he reached a madrega of Chochma, 1 degree below Ruach HaKodesh, says the Rambam. At the same time, he disagrees with him on other stuff, of course. But it's interesting how the Ramban characterizes and describes the Rambam's approach. He said, Lirchoik me al Aristo v'Gallianus. This is how he characterizes the Rambam's endeavor, as distancing from Aristo and Gallianus. Interesting, not close. That was one of the criticisms, as we're going to see, is that he built it on Aristotelian philosophy, some of which he did. The Ramban said actually what he was doing was he was Lirchoik. Really interesting to point out. So he says to them, to the Balei Tosfos, tell me, have you ever read Aristotle? The Rambam wrote it for somebody who was influenced by this, and he had to write to show that's not right. He said, Halochem, did he write it for you? To push you away from Aristo? Hashmatem divreihem? Have you ever heard the words of Aristotle? Im to'isem acharei ra'yoseihem? Have you ever been led astray by their proofs? Lo yalechem rabboseinu, not to you. Habitu ru'um yashmachem k'machivenu. Oi, he says, have a heart, have some empathy in your ivory tower. Have some empathy that we have pain. Golubonam al shulchan avihem. There are Yidden all over in other countries that they've been pushed away, exiled from the shulchan avihem, which is the Beis HaMedrash. Vayizgalu b'pasbag hamelech u'b'yein mishtisam, and they have become infected by the toxic, the food and the wine of the melech. V'yisarvu b'goyim, and they have mixed with the goyim and assimilated and learnt their ways. Also, we have cherev hashmad, we have inquisition, we have terrible things going on. Asher b'avonisenu sorad b'golos Yerushalayim asher b'sfarad. And it was allowed, he says, for those who were close to Malchus to learn Chochma Yavonis. That was allowed in order to understand Refuah. Because that was, you needed to learn Gallianus in order to understand Refuah. L'shair kol midel adas kol tavnis. And the other Chochma is, so that they should know about them. Even these are, afkielu Chochmas mutaris. Rabbi Seinu Zal hisironu bahen v'tziva aleim. But We had to learn them from... The truth is, he says, and I don't want to go into this, he said, really, we could have learnt these chokhmas that we needed from our own chachomim, but those books got lost. Kasha avdu sifrei chachmei seinu, and then v'hutzrachnu lilmud ben misifrei hayavonim. We had to learn them from sifrei hayavonim. Don't forget, the Ramban was also a doctor. And he'd also studied medicine, presumably, and he was writing about himself, it seems. V'hutzrachnu lilmud ben misifrei hayavonim, and the amim ashoinim. Hischilu b'shevach v'simu b'gnus. And therefore the Rambam, last line there, the Rambam put a shield. Mogen hu lechatzi keshes, chitzei keshes b'nei yovam. It is a shield against the slings and arrows of the Yovan, which is again a posuk in Novi. He's okay, fine. V'hanira lachem. Now, next paragraph. And it seems to you from this sefer that in order to do kiruv, not min hakav. Here we get one of the criticisms. It seems to you that in order for him to be mekarev, what he did is he went too far. Be'ikvei ha-philosophia yotza al dalsei chochma nokesh koshe beinechem shedoches oivav bekash. It appears to you that the Rambam went too far by accepting ideas from philosophy against Torah. Why did you not look into it and see? And here he says something very harsh. The Gemara says that Zoinos will cover for each other. Talmidei Chachomim lo kol shekein. And here he is alluding, to my mind, this is a very harsh reference to the fact that he is suggesting to them that they may have been influenced by personal considerations. If Zoinos mefarchasei zu ezu, Talmidei Chachomim lo kol shekein. Because you said, because you said into our ears with arrogance and what's the word I'm looking for? I can't get the word. And shameful. With arrogance and disgracing words that should not be heard. And to you, the eyes of our Kehillah, tears will fall. You said, Dvorim hanirim lekino v'sino ne'emorin osur l'shoimon. You have said things which appear to be jealousy and hatred. They are forbidden to be heard, not even to be written, and kol shekein not to be said. Because shekosavtem, now here back to the second person. You wrote and you said about this holy man, alo ish hakodesh hahu, asher b'chol golus tzarfas v'safarad loikom komoihu, hamoire yoire mikomoihu moire. Nobody comes close to the Rambam, the Holy One. Nobody can teach like him. And ubechol mene chochmos boki, he was an expert in all chochmos. Mishnosoi kav v'noki, his Mishnah, his Torah was clean. Pi'artem peh livlichoik, ve'hetartem bidvarim denishmom le'meirochoik. And you've said things which should not be said. When you said, ba'omrechem al hagoyin, when you spoke about this great goyin, yeshlanu godu kameyu, mimenu shenaset tziduki. What did they say? It seems he's referencing one of the things they said. Well, look, we know there's a Gemara which says that Yochanan Kohen Gadol, a great man, became a tziduki. The Rambam went off. You see from this reference that the Chachmei Tzarfas, had said about the Rambam, well, look, he got it wrong. And you said, well, there are great, yes, he may be a great man, but there are great people than him that also went off. Look what you said. You are not correct. You did not speak correctly about an Eved Hashem. And I will tell you off to your eyes. Kilo eso pnei ha'ish. I will not be dissuaded. It means I'm not. You're not going to. I'm not ashamed. I'm not embarrassed. I'm going to do it. I am mekane for the gon. Madua es harav mi maseu tafriu v'tzadik kabir tarsheu. Why did you say that he is a Rasha? Halisha, did you not ask those who pass by? Hamarichim loshen hamafrigim limlitza b'tehilas harav agodo. Did you not ask? Do you not know about his praise? B'malas chasidusai, his piety. Toikef emunosai, his emuna, his humility. B'gdulas yichusai, b'nedivas kisai, b'masav hanifloim, b'milov hanoiroim, b'hiyosai b'yiras eloikov dovuk v'choshek. He is dovuk, he is a kodesh. You can see how the Ramban is really going to town on who the Rambam was. And u'b'talmudenu noishek, he kisses our Gemara. Oyehev divrei chachamim u'mechabkon. Hey nechmadeinu v'machmad l'nafshay, atorah l'rishenu. Im re'isem svarav, if you saw his svarim, if you would have learnt carefully his works, hashmatim oisoi mevayit b'isurim, did you hear him anywhere being lenient, kicking at something which is osur, b'kalin u'b'chamurin? Im hishmit kol takona u'gzeira, did he omit mention of any takona u'gzeira? V'lo yosas yog la'toira? Im helim ayin me'eruvin v'yodayim, did he neglect to talk about Eruvin and Yodayim? Im shochach oime begorin v'oifu gvino hanecholim ba'apikoiren haloi hechmir ben Yosef v'Yosef minadin. The Rambam in many places very machmir. Loi lochem rabboseinu lahokel roish keneged mizrach. You have no right to take it upon yourself to speak against the Mizrach. Mi hika hat tzidukim. Who was it that smashed the tzidukim? Mi nosen ha baitusim l'shusim. Who was it that smashed the baitusim? Haloi haravzal. The Rambam wrote igeres after igeres and mamar after mamar, and he showed no fear or favor to those who deviated an inch from Torah. Ki Hashem imoi. V'hoivish richbei susim, v'hoitziad direyem b'chaltzem elech mitzrayim, yipachta yoguru misas charedim, rabbi me'amarotz misyadim, kinof al-pachta, v'hineni meid alai lifnei rabboisai shamayim v'oretz. Says the Ramban, and I will testify in front of you that I have heard, mimagidei emes, shebechol artzos malchus teimam, everywhere in the Yemen, many kehilos are busy with the Torah and mitzvahs lishmon, and v'hoyu mazkirin shem harav b'chol kadesh v'kadesh b'chayechen u'v'yomechen u'v'chaye de Rabbonim Moshe ben Maimon. That in Kaddish, that's the way that they hold the Rambam in such high esteem, that they sit and are true to learning Torah because of the influence of the Rambam, and they include him even in the Kaddish. Asher heir einehem b'Torah. He lit up their eyes with Torah and he put them in the right way. Levatil men gzeres koshtos v'kovid amas. Ki hoyu ketitchutz es mirmas me'aleim al oil horim v'yecholu ma'at minasam melechudorim. Okay, we'll stop here for today. You're getting the flavor. Yeah. I mean, this is absolutely, it's a masterclass. Like I said, again, just to summarize very quickly where we're up to. I know it's only page 4. I'll try and hurry it up a bit. But I mean, it's beautiful. It's beautiful, yeah. And it's really what I want to take out of this. We're not just learning an 900-year-old letter. This is a masterclass in dealing with conflict in the Ruach HaTorah. He starts off, as you saw, page and page of genuine anova, and then he starts and he interpolates it with more anova, but he doesn't hold back. And he does two things. Let's just a few things. Let's just quickly recap. He says, first of all, do you think the Rambam was speaking to you? What right do you have to spread the net of your ban? Even if you were to be right, just because something might be wrong for you, it's not an absolute. There are places where the Rambam is needed. He wasn't speaking to you. He was doing something totally different. He was helping people who otherwise would have been influenced by Aristo and Gallianus. Have you even heard of them? Do you even know who they are? It's not relevant for you. Of course it's not for you. Plus, He then says there's personal considerations here. You didn't find out. You find out about a person. You find out about a person. Yeah, I shouldn't say a few things I wouldn't say on camera. But if you spoke, and the Ramban was known, he had just died. It's true, not all of his Sfarim had made it to France. Moreh Nevuchim came a bit later to France. But people knew about him. Ask. Is he about Gaiva? Is he makel in something? Look at his Sefer. You'll see he's machmir on many, many things. And he's had an incredibly positive influence. So maybe there was jealousy. Maybe there was sinna and kinna. And that's so far where he's up to, and then we'll get to some of the...